whoa, whoa. Oh, welcome to another 5-minute violin. Today we're going to talk about how on earth do you hold this thing. This is a new series, How on Earth Do You, with basic questions about how to get started on the violin. How do you hold this? So today we want to go over some basic positional strategies that I like to use with holding the violin. And then in a different video we'll do part 2 on some basic equipment that'll make your life easier. So you've probably seen all kinds of violin positions. You know, you see people holding here, or you see people holding, you know, kind of down here. You see people, you know, holding here. And so which is it? It's a little hard to sort out at the beginning. And I think I like the best thinking about it as landing a plane, okay? So we're gonna come from the air into a nice high position. So let's start first in rest position, and I'm gonna be your mirror. So you're gonna hold your violin under your right arm, okay? Make sure that you can see the bridge here. And in rest position, we're going to take your violin hand and swoop under the violin and switch hands here so that you are actually holding the violin body and not the neck, okay? And I'll explain why about that in a minute. But so you're holding the body, okay? And then you want to pull the violin out away from you and come out to the front, okay? And the reason I say pull it out away from you is because if you have a shoulder rest on and you pull it straight forward, that shoulder rest is going to fall off. And you don't want to have that happen on stage or in the middle of a class, and then it's all embarrassing, right? So you want to come away from your body, let that sponge or shoulder rest come out with the violin and coming here. Now you notice I don't have a shoulder rest on at the moment, and that's okay. But if you have one on, just be mindful that it's on there as you come out here, okay? Now with the violin out here, you want to rotate it, okay? If you're having trouble rotating it, it might be because your thumb is not behind. You want to have your thumb behind the violin so that you can actually hold it strongly and turn it while it's out here, okay? So if you're holding like this with your thumb in front, it's really hard to do that. You get your thumb behind, okay? So rest position and coming out away from your body, and then you're going to rotate it in the air and you're going to look for this button, okay? This little piece right here. You aim that button at your face, and then you're going to land your plane from the air. Now where does it land? It lands on your runway. You have a shirt seam here probably. My shirt seam. That's the top of your runway, and you want to make sure your shoulder rest or your thumb, your sponge, excuse me, hits that shoulder seam here, okay? So if I have a shoulder rest here, this shoulder rest, imagine it's on the violin, needs to touch that seam, okay? So not too far back here and not down here, right there, okay? So when you come up to play position, you're landing the plane from the air and touching the runway on the shirt seam. The reason I like landing the plane is because if you put the violin up from below, you end up in the wrong place. Wrong for our purposes here of establishing some balance at the beginning. So let me talk about now what happens when you hold the violin in a different spot. If I hold the violin from the neck, which seems to make sense because oftentimes, you know, that's how we're playing, right? We're usually holding it from the neck. And so the tendency is to swing it up from the neck. And if you swing it up from the neck, you end up with this position, which is really not good for your bow because you don't have enough motion here. And it's also not good for balance. Also not good left-hand position. Your agility suffers when it's here. So I joke, you know, don't grow a violin beard. This is a violin beard, okay? So instead, if you notice, you can try this on your own. Rotate the violin up from the neck and it lands it on your chest. You rotate the violin up from the body of the violin, it lands in a different place. So that's why I like to start from rest position and go all the way up to land the plane from there. Okay. Now, so keep in mind as you're doing this, you want to come from rest position. One mistake that I've seen is not doing that. So like people trying to like do this, or some kind of odd routine. Put your violin in rest position, and then you can find this position with your hand and pat the body of the violin, and then you can land the plane on the runway. Okay. Now, the second thing that we have to work on is what to do with your head once the violin is landed on your shoulder. Okay. So you can put your violin down or hang it up on a yoke if you have that. And just let's practice a head turn. This is a 45-degree turn to your left. Okay, so I'm going to be your mirror again. So you're going to look at something in the room that's 45 degrees from straight forward. Okay, so if I turn my head all the way to the left, that's a little bit tense. Can you feel that's a little uncomfortable? So if my chin is all the way over my shoulder, that's too far. So not turning all the way over to your left, just this much. Okay? So that's about a 45-degree angle to here. So you pick out something like the corner of your door, or something in the room that's about 45 degrees, and just practice turning your head that direction a few times. What you're doing is you're rotating on a string. So imagine a puppeteer holding a string at the top of your head, and that connects to your spine. Your head actually is a hinge, has a point where it sits on the spine, and it's just like a hinge that can move left to right, okay? You don't need your neck muscles to activate at all. This is just a simple turn of the head. Parents, this can be a little tricky at first, because when you say look at something to your left, oftentimes you'll just get the eyeballs moving. So you want to teach your child to move their nose and their chin, as well as their eyes, to that 45-degree point, okay? So move your nose and move it back. Just practicing that, moving the nose, okay? Also, then this happens, okay, that moving the whole body. So we want to keep the shoulders faced forward and just moving the head. So just getting familiar with how this feels to not be rotating the whole torso, just the head, moving back and forth. Now that we've practiced that, we can take the violin again and go through the whole routine from rest positions. You take the violin hand, take the body, hold it out away, rotate, land the plane, and now we can look. That's it. Okay? Now, mistakes that often are made here is that when you are in rest position and coming for the violin, you begin to get ready and think, okay, I got to get ready to clamp on the violin. Okay? That will ruin your posture. Just face forward, and so let's practice that. Only when I say go can you look left. Right? Let's take the violin, put it in position, landing the plane on the runway. Now go. Only then. Okay? So we don't have this kind of clamping action. Again, it's not looking all the way to the right. It's not clamping with the chin. It's simply putting the jaw in the cradle, looking left. Okay? We should call this a jaw rest. We don't really turn our head over and put our chin on it, even though that's tempting to do because you want to watch what you're doing. But we're just rotating and putting the jaw in. Another mistake is to lay down too far on the violin. So for young children, we just say, listen, can you put your ear on a little baby pillow here? Imagine a 1-inch pillow. And that way we have just a slight head tilt here. That's a little more advanced maybe than we need to go right now. Just getting the head turn is good enough. There's one more method I want to show you, and this one really works if the others aren't working very well, or if you are working with a young child. So this one is just called head, ear, shoulder, look. It's very simple. Coming from rest position, same thing. Let's get our violin hand under the violin, take the body and come up to your head, ear, shoulder, and look. Let's try that again. Just dropping straight down from your head, ear, shoulder, and look. So you can say look at the scroll or look at the bridge. If you're using a box violin, sometimes we have stickers there or whatever, but just something to look at for the child to focus on. And that may not be perfect at all. That's okay. Just the basic idea that we're dropping the violin down from the air. So then, what do you do once you're there? Well, let's do it again. Head, ear, shoulder, and look. And now we're just going to hang out. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to move your left hand. You don't have to move your head in any direction or anything. You just hang out here. See if you can count to 10. If you can count to 20, hey, about 50. You can also turn your body in a circle. Do some knee bends. Just get comfortable with this position. You can close your eyes, take a picture of it with your inner camera. Memorize where your arm is and where your violin is. Notice the strings are parallel to the ground, and that spot you picked out before, you can kind of point your scroll at a point that's eye level in the room, and this will help you keep your violin nice and high. Imagine a grapefruit here between your elbow and your body so that you don't get this saggy, wilty position. Okay, this really poor posture, and it'll affect your sound. You want to have your arm here. If you get tired, let's rest for real by going back to rest position. Okay, so no resting here by teaching your body to do this. You see where the scroll is pointing? So only pointing scroll out and building your stamina for holding this position. Okay? Only a few minutes at a time you need to do this in order to get your body used to it. This is absolutely foundational for the rest of your playing. I hope you'll spend some time working on this, of going from rest position to play position and landing the playing, or doing the head, ear, shoulder, and look. And working with your child on this, just doing that together a few times every day will really set the foundation of the house that you're trying to build here. So happy practicing, and we'll see you again next time.